Hi, welcome to the Flex with Aaliyah. And this week's episode is 75 hard, worth it? And that topic's come up quite a bit. And like I said, I always like to kick things off with a quote. So the quote I have for you today is, "It's not luck, it's not magic, it's not circumstances. It's developing a great plan and executing on it day in and day out until the vision in your head becomes a reality." And that quote is actually by Andy Frisella, who established 75 Hard. And if you're not really familiar with 75 Hard, what it is it's a transformation challenge. A lot of people think of it as a fitness challenge. There is fitness included in it, but it is more so about mental toughness. At least that's actually what Andy talks about in the initial program format. And he specifically says that it's considered a transformative mental toughness program and about taking control of your life. And he breaks it down into certain different categories: self-esteem, confidence, that you're going to take those things away from participating 75 Hard. And on this episode, I have a friend, Ben, with me who actually just finished 75 Hard. So let's give him a round of applause. Woohoo! And he's going to tell us a little bit about his experience, and then we're going to talk about it, whether it was worth it, things he's learned, and kind of just a nice casual conversation about it. So, Ben, welcome to the Flex with Aaliyah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Aaliyah. Definitely appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. And so you started 75 Hard about like maybe, I don't know, 77 days ago. What made you start it? Like, how did that happen?
Well, during the winter months, I know for myself, I've done this challenge before, and I didn't quite do it fully. I didn't really put my all into it. Didn't realize how difficult it was. Um, but as far as what got me started in doing it this time, I started it on the 16th, I believe, of January. And I basically did it because for me, in the winter months, I suffer from depression real bad. You know what I mean? So, this year I just wanted to kind of change it up. As they say, if you want different, do different. So I figured, why not, try to attempt this challenge again and see if I could really get the benefits of it. And I must say, I was very, very surprised.
Okay, and I think that is a great way to start reestablishing a new program. There's plenty of people out there who during the winter, it's dark, it's cold, and they're struggling with their goals, whether it's fitness related, whether it's engaging in activities that they typically like. Um, and you had mentioned that you had started it before, but it didn't finish it to completion. And what happened during that?
Um, to be honest with you, like I really didn't think it all the way through. I mean, I like the idea of challenging myself mentally and what have you. But for that period of time, I guess when I first thought about it, I just thought, oh my God, 75 days. Whereas with this challenge, I took each day as it came and just kind of broke it down. You know what I mean? And for me, it was more digestible. You know what I mean? And it was easier for me to do a completion each day and then just kind of build off of each day. You know what I mean? Like I said, I've definitely seen the benefits this time for sure.
That makes sense. Truncating it into small, manageable pieces as opposed to looking at it like, oh my God, 75 days. That's, that's about 2.5 months almost, or because 2 months would be about 60 days. And that's fantastic that you got through it this time. You had mentioned a couple times that you did get the results. what results did you get, and were they what you expected when you started?
Okay. All right. Two-part question. Let me start with was it worth it? Definitely was worth it. What I was looking for, I definitely got more. I honestly went into it with a body transformation type of thought, right? I knew that there would be some benefits mentally because I did see some of those the first time I did it. But I can actually say with the challenge this time, I've seen more of a mental difference than a physical difference. Of course, I wanted to gain weight, and I've gained less pounds than I planned on, but I became stronger. Um, but mentally, I'm able to start my day with the state of gratitude, and that kind of carries me out throughout the day. It's kind of been able to keep me in the present just with my reading. It's all the way around. Like mentally, it's definitely kept me in a more positive place than I know I would have been if I hadn't done it.
That makes sense. Yeah, the mentality piece of it. And before we go a little further into it, can you give a little snapshot of what 75 Hard looks like for those of who are listening who haven't even heard of it or maybe aren't as familiar with it?
Okay. Now, as far as for, my requirements for the 75 hard, basically what it is two workouts per day. One workout would be indoors, a gym preferably, and then one would be a workout outdoors. That's one component. Another component would be meditation once a day. Another part is also reading 10 pages of any book that enhances your life in whatever way you feel like your life needs enhancing. Um, Another one is staying hydrated with water. It usually says a gallon of water. I didn't. I did do the gallon of water the first time, and it didn't. It didn't agree with me, so I didn't drink quite a gallon of water. But I did make sure that I stayed hydrated with water. Stayed away from sodas, of course. Um, my as far as my food, my diet, my sugar intake, no white sugar. I used an app on my phone to calculate my meals, making sure I got my protein, my carbs in, or what have you. Uh, Trying to think. Of course, getting rest, but yeah, those I believe were the main. Yeah, reading, meditation, the workouts. I'm sorry. As I was saying with the positive state of mind, I had a gratitude list. And what I would do is every morning I would write, either the morning or the nighttime, I would jot down 10 things that I was grateful for throughout the day. And that's kind of how I started my day on a positive note, staying in touch with, something beyond myself just to try to navigate this world, as they say.
So there were two workouts, indoor, outdoor, and we'll put in parentheses workouts because you were allowed to choose what they were. And then outside of that, everything else was more so we had the nutrition element, and then mostly everything else was, do you think, mental work or?
I definitely would, yeah, I definitely would say mental. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. For me, that the parts that the latter parts were the ones that kept me disciplined. You know what I mean? Because working out, yes, it may get difficult here and there, but to actually sit down and journal and write and to actually read that 10 pages, those are things that make you think. And I it definitely worked out. Definitely worked for the better for my mental for sure.
When I was reading up on some of the stuff about 75 Hard from Andy Frizzell, he had made a comment like he's pretty much anticipating what people are already going to say, like, oh, can I do this? Can I change this? And in his we'll say manual, it says, no, you can't cut corners and make it your own. You want to follow what I have written. And so since you tweaked some things and made it like Ben 75 hard, do you feel like you still got the benefit, or that doesn't matter? Anyone could do their own 75 hard.
I mean, I can definitely understand where the gentleman was coming from because if those were his intentions, then those were his intentions. As far as my 75 hard, um, the areas that I felt would help me the most, that's kind of where I tweaked a little bit, and like I knew what I needed to get through the season, and I also knew what would be needed to have this be a consistent thing for 75 days. Like that's the last thing I wanted to do was not finish this. You know what I mean? Like, after a while, basically day one, it became personal.
Like you wanted that sense of accomplishment of finishing the 75 hard.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if for no one else, just for myself, you know what I mean? Like I want to be the best version of myself. And I felt like this was, a no shortcut way of doing that. Now, mind you, I may have modified, some steps or what have you, but I still put 100% effort in every day.
And the modifications you made, you set the standard for yourself at the beginning, though, and you maintained those standards. It wasn't like, oh, today I don't feel like doing this, I'll fit this into my schedule. You maintained the standard that you set, right?
Absolutely. I'll even give you an example. For my weight, I started off and I believe I was 151, and my goal weight was 185. Well, I ended and I was at 168 was my final weight. Now, to some, that may seem like a failure. And even to myself, I thought about it at first like, wow, you didn't reach your goal. But again, let me stress, I did become stronger. And then I had to realize, even though I was consuming more food, consuming more calories and what have you, I was also working out twice a day. Now, my outdoor workout for the most part was walking, but it was intentional walking.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I was burning calories. So in my eyes, gaining 1 pound during this time period was a win. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I definitely it definitely worked out in the end.
Yeah, especially since it's not meant to be a fitness challenge. Like he even says, this is a tool, it's not a program. And you did get some benefits because before you had some health issues, and I think during this entire most of the 75 hard, for what you were eating, you weren't having those issues. But did you have any hiccups that really made it challenging?
During this challenge, did I have any hiccups? Oh man, I mean, I've gone through some physical, issues. I had a finger that was swollen. Oh my goodness, since Christmas Eve, so it was even before I started. Uh, and that just basically healed a few days ago, all the way. Yeah, I also ran into a problem with my foot. Imagine that walking every day, right? But yeah, I mean, I had a problem where my foot swelled to a point that I had to use a cane for a few days. But again, I knew what I was able to do. You know what I mean? And I just looked at it as let's move forward. You know what I mean? My higher power knows my intentions. I do have common sense, hence using a cane, and we got through it. You know what I mean? Like I feel so much better. And honestly, Ali, I think that's one of those mental lessons that the gentleman was talking about because it just kind of showed me that life is going to keep life and things are going to show up regardless. You just have to show up. You know what I mean? Things are going to happen, but you just go ahead and walk through it.
I like that. Life is just going to keep lifing. And in full discretion, you and I both knew that you were experiencing hiccups, but every day maybe not every day, but I would see you a lot of those days coming in. And
Yep.
all you listeners out there, like, he showed the F up when most people wouldn't. It is so easy to do it when it is easy. It is not when it's hard. And I know for me in this industry, I get asked that question a lot, or that topic, like, well, how do you show up when you don't want to? And it sounds cliche, but you just do. And could you think about like what really drove you to come in when you were walking in with a cane and your foot was swollen? Like, what made you get your butt out of the house and into the second workout, whether it was at the gym or whether it was somewhere else?
Um, well, one thing in particular is that from the start, and I want to thank you personally, like for keeping me accountable. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to let you guys down, because if I let you guys down, then I'm letting myself down. And if you notice, I constantly say that, we did it. You know what I mean? Because like you guys, whether you know it or not, like the energy is felt. You know what I'm saying? That's what kept me going. Like, it sure it wasn't easy, but you know what? I didn't do it by myself. Maybe the actions were by myself, but I felt the energy from my community for sure.
Well, that's sometimes really important to have that support group. It might not look like what you initially thought it would look like or what you'd expect. Because I'm sure you've been in some situations where I have, where I expect that person A is going to really be there for me, but they're not. But person F is, and I'm like, holy shit, they showed up. They showed up. And not like necessarily physically, but however they showed up for me in that particular moment. And it really makes you appreciate those people, right?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And like I have this saying, if you look for something, you'll find it, right? And what I mean by that in this instance is, like I have a lot of examples of, friends, family, etc., that, they're going through their own hardships. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But they keep showing up. You know what I mean? So, how dare I stop because? You know what I mean? Like let's go. You know what I'm saying? Like I really feed off of other people's energy. You know what I mean? And I just hope that they feed off of mine as well, because at the end of the day, that's why I do this. It's all about love.
All about love. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I know a couple people have asked me about 75 Hard. I've never personally done it. I never felt the need to do it. I didn't feel like I needed something to hold me accountable or follow steps. And when people approach me like, hey, do you think I should do this? My personal opinion is like, if you want to, if you feel like you need it, because a lot of people, and I'm not going to put you in this category because I'm not going to speak for you, but a lot of people want something to save them. They want something that's going to work. They need to believe in something. And I think so many people participate in 75 Hard because, one, it does let them feel that sense of accomplishment, and it provides a template. It As a trainer, I work with people who want a program to follow. They don't want to guess what they're going to do. So 75 Hard pretty much provides an equation to, as Andy says, improve your mental toughness. Like, do the things you don't want to do. Read the 10 pages on the day that you feel tired. You get home from work late, you still got to read it because that's what you committed to do for yourself. And if this is what somebody needs to do that, then I say go for it. Do I think it is the only program that, or well, he'll say tool that works? Absolutely not. I think it's really going to come down to the person. Like in his thing, it specifically says this is the only program that will help you make changes. And I get he's talking about his, but I think that's a little bullshit because I only say that's a little bullshit because there are plenty of people who've gone through things in their life and have come out changed in a positive way. And so there's other programs out there, and that's what I want people to know and understand, that there is not one program that's going to work for you. You have to find the one that either jives with you or that helps you maintain. Some people I know do this as groups. There's gyms that are like, hey, we're going to do 75 hard. And they do it because the group does it, which is fantastic. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what happens when it ends? What happens when the day 75 comes? Now what?
Great question. Great question.
Yeah. So now that it's over, what's your now what?
My now what, believe it or not, is to actually keep going. And I'm going to continue with this template. Now, I'm actually doing a little bit more modifications for myself. And basically, the only one that I'm doing is, as opposed of writing out my 10 things that I'm grateful for now I'm going to include those in my meditations. So again, I'm at least making myself aware of the present, the things I'm grateful for, and hopefully again take that energy out. But yeah, it's done me nothing but good. So you know what? Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Because most people, and I can speak from experience, regardless of what the goal is, they hit the goal and then they stop. And they don't, not that you need to always look forward, because it's the steps that get you there. Looking at the goal doesn't get you to the goal. Like looking at, I got to get to day 75. Okay, well, what about day 2?
Right.
Have these steps that you have to get through. Okay, you want to lose weight. Okay, you can focus on that weight, but it's not going to do the actions. Those aren't the actions. And I don't think people either understand that or know how to take that goal and put the actions to it.
Right, right.
So when something ends, like there's a couple that I train and they just started a new diet, and we actually had like a tense moment during our training session because on this particular day I was asking them about it, which I normally do, and then I said, okay, well, what happens when it ends? And their response was like, well, I guess we'll kind of go back to eating the way we used to eat, and then when we need to, we'll go back on this diet. I'm like, but is that the point of the whole point? Is that's not a temporary change.
Right.
You want something that's sustainable. And I feel like that applies to 75 hard. If someone's going to do 75 hard, you might not like pieces of it, and that is fine. But you want to take the pieces that you do like. That doesn't mean the pieces that you like were the easy parts. Like I know for me, probably the meditation would be really, really hard. The workouts would be super easy. The nutrition would be super easy. But then you take the parts that spoke to you. And everyone's going to have a different piece that really spoke to them.
Yep.
And that ending, when people see that ending, that's it. They don't realize that it's a continuous stream. Life doesn't end when that goal ends. Life doesn't end when 75 hard ends. What's your opinion of that?
I mean, I totally agree with that, and it's kind of funny that you brought that up because going into this challenge this time, that was something for me, like, oh my goodness, 75 days of this. But as I was going through the challenge, as I was saying before, Leah, like I really had to chop each day down to its own nugget. You know what I'm saying? And, even as I'm continuing now, I'm not doing another 75 hard. Like I'm doing a day at a time. You know what I mean? That's literally all I have anyway. So I'm just trying to use the steps and the things that I did each day and be cognizant of what I'm doing and intentional, and that growth and that maturity is going to happen. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's a great point as far as I think that drives a lot of people, not drives. I think that it intimidates a lot of people just to think, of anything for that longer period of time. You know what I'm saying? Like to have to do it. Like, yeah, like that definitely, it, I don't know how overwhelmed I was, but I'm thankful that I had accountability partners to keep me going, because that did, creep up in my mind a few times. But I quickly realized that no, you have to, break this down to bite-sized morsels.
Yep. Bite-sized morsels. And that makes me think of like when there was a period of time where I did like bodybuilding training, and I would compete. In the beginning, it was relatively easy, but then if you wanted to succeed in the sport and you didn't hold yourself accountable with your nutrition, it would show on the stage. And as it got closer and closer, I would have calendars that would have the weeks, and I really enjoy the physical action of crossing it off. Like, get this day. Oh, cheat meal's 2 days away. Make it to the cheat meal day. And then usually the anticipation of the cheat meal was far greater than the day of it. It's like, oh, I don't need it. Like, or I don't want it. And that's almost like the same thing of the goals. Like, you want it, you want it, you want it, you got it. Oh, okay. And not everybody has that, though. Not everybody enjoys the work, but the work is most of the time. Even in jobs, you want that high-paying job, you're going to have to work and work and work. Oh, you get that high-paying job, you get that promotion. You want the next promotion? You work, you work, you work. The same thing in relationships. You want that perfect symbiotic relationship? Well, you know what? It doesn't come easy. There's work you got to put in. There's communication. There's effort. You want that chiseled body, or you want to get stronger. And all that takes so much work, more than 75 days. But you have to start somewhere, which
Right.
is day one.
Right.
And then you have checkpoints. And 75 is the checkpoint for you.
Yep. Yes, it is.
You're
Yep.
going to set a new checkpoint. That's like someone said to me, you're never satisfied. So what? Because I want to be the best that I can be, so what? Okay, if I hit 75 and it's like, you're not satisfied. Oh, yes, because I want 100.
Yeah, right.
You might not be able to see or taste that, but I can. And that's what separates you and I.
Yep.
Not you per se.
I get it. And that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, that's okay. But you're absolutely right, though. Absolutely.
And that hunger I think everybody has that hunger. They either just don't know how to tap into it. I don't think it's that they don't know how. I think it's that they're lazy. People are lazy. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Like, I'm not going to label it as a bad thing. In my profession, would laziness be a bad thing? Yes, because then I'm not tending to my business, I'm not tending to my health or my clients or my performance. But someone could not have any kids, not care about they could be lazy. That doesn't mean there's not negative things happening in their life, mentally, physically, whatnot. But Laziness plagues a lot of people. How many people do you think would show up with a swollen foot and a cane to do their workout?
I couldn't answer. You know what I mean? Because I didn't think I would until that day came. You know what I mean? And then I realized, like, you're stronger than you think. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would hope that you know, I would hope that people take their health as seriously as I take mine. And I guess what I mean by that is, I fight every day for my health. You know what I mean? I'm a type 2 diabetic. People would look at me and not think that, but I fight every day for my health, and that's part of why this was so personal. Like I've taken these tools outside of the gym, like these have helped to enhance my life, so I look at it as, you can give up on anything you want. Don't give up on yourself though. Don't give up on yourself. Like if you're going to fight for anything, fight for yourself.
Yeah, you're the person you're with the most. You're the person you talk to the most. And we don't always talk ourselves up as best as we should. And that was huge. I don't know that you thought you were that strong before and how disciplined you were to make it through those. You went through some hard bouts this 75 hard. But how good does it feel to know that you made it through that?
Man, it was a time. Oh, listen, you know what? I can honestly say like it's literally a different type of happiness, and it's really crazy because it's like day 75, I was expecting to be jumping up in the air, and it was just basically like, you did it. You know what I mean? But then after that little point of you did it, then I got to be able to think back on like what I've gained and what I've learned about myself, just ways of dealing with situations better, what I've learned through these readings. Like it's crazy because it was literally like, and I'm telling no lie, but whatever situation I was going through throughout each day, and whatever I was reading that day within those 10 pages, there was some type of remedy or antidote within those pages. You know what I mean? And that's just like kind of how everything worked out for me. It was like I needed something to bring everything together so that as opposed to my life being all around the place in my head, it's now in an orderly, positive fashion.
Yeah. And the books that you had to read, according to 75 Hard, that they had to be nonfiction,
Right,
right?
right, right. Yep.
What were some of the books or the books that you were reading?
Now there's one that was called "The Five Principles." That's by an artist named Stick. He's actually a rapper that I listen to, an activist, and he's a big influence on me. I listen to all his music. Basically, so it's all about eating healthy, working out, keeping the body, mind, spirit right. So I read his book, and that was the second time I read it. But believe me, I got a lot out of it. Let me see. There's a book by Black Thought. It's called, oh my goodness, The Upcycled Self. And that was basically a little bit it was about basically taking, let's just say, a piece of an antique and kind of refurbishing it into its own, its own thing. So you're just taking something and kind of upcycling it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so those are my two books, and then I had a daily meditations book. I didn't really count that one because that was just a few paragraphs a day. That kind of helped with my meditation or whatnot. But yeah, but those were the two books. Yeah, they I definitely got a lot out of them for sure, and I'm still gonna keep reading as well. You know what I mean? I'm up for any suggestions if anybody has any. Just something positive. That's what I'm all about.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Some books I've started. I love reading. I actually got away from reading when I was in grad school, only because I had to read so much research that I didn't want to read. I didn't want to think anymore. And I actually read I like nonfiction, but I prefer fiction because my life is very serious in what I do. And I like to use my imagination. So the fiction was always very satisfying to me. But once I hit grad school, like, man, my reading took a, a, a very far back seat, like the station wagon, way, way back. I have books. And actually, I was for not this particular podcast, but for the podcast, the flexibility in general. I've probably done more reading in these last like couple weeks than I've done in the last couple years, and I did forget how much I enjoyed it. One of the ones that I'm reading for a podcast I'm going to do is called, um, I think it's called "Unlock the Blocks." And how do you unlock that potential? That's what that one's about. And because most of mine are on body mechanics and physiology, so it's slightly different. But that one I'm super excited to talk about because I'm actually going to make a whole podcast about it. I just got to read up on it, and yeah. So so to recap, what we talked about today. We talked about 75 hard. Is it worth it? Do you think it's worth it?
For me, absolutely.
And what do you think is, if you could pick one takeaway, what was your main takeaway from completing 75 hard?
Um, my main takeaway: consistency is everything. No matter how small a step, it's still a step. That would be my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, every step of it. That makes me think of this magnet that my mom got me. And it says, a kick in the ass is still a step forward. So, so, so even sometimes when you're feeling down and stuff's happening and you feel like you're
Yep.
getting your butt kicked, it still is a step forward. It just doesn't feel like a forward step.
Right, right.
And there's another quote by Andy Frisella that says, things are the hardest right before they get better. Things are the most frustrating right before they get better. It's hard to remember that when you're in the middle of it, but they are. So when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to remember how hard it was right before or when it was most frustrating. And I think this challenge will highlight that for people when they start it or when they get into it, because there's going to be a part in the middle where they're like, God, this is so hard. Because I think you also have to give up, for people who drink, you have to give up alcohol for this one. And there's some other ones, but I know a lot of people do like dry January, and they find that so hard. And in my head, I feel like, personally speaking, that would be an easy one, but I don't really drink a lot. And so that one, but there's something that's always so hard. Like if I had to give up peanut butter, which I have before, and I can do it.
It's difficult.
And I wouldn't say that is like a really, really hard thing in the grand scheme of things, but people don't realize, you don't realize the mountains you climbed 5 years ago today.
Yep.
Unless you think back on it and you're like, holy shit. If I overcame that, I could definitely overcome this.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
And it's hard to look back on that and actually realize that. And so day 175 hard might feel like a mountain, but by day 75, you've conquered Everest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you're honest with yourself, it is a 75 hard challenge. It's not a 75 hard give me. You know what I mean? So for me, like I needed that challenge. You know what I'm saying? And if I'm realistic with myself, if it didn't challenge me, you know what I mean, then I wouldn't be able to appreciate, you know, as you said, like looking back, what I broke out through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. It would have been too easy and like, oh, okay, not that. And that maybe that's why I don't ever feel compelled to do it, because it seems certain aspects of it seem easy. You know, that's an interesting perspective on it. You know. So it seems like you had a very positive experience with it, and yep, you tried it once before, you fell off the wagon, which plenty of people who do 75 hard do. So if you're out there and you've tried it and you've fallen off, get back on the wagon. That's part.
Yeah, give yourself a chance.
Yeah, give yourself a chance. That's part of 75 hard is, yep, you fell off. They'll talk about goal setting as a roller coaster, a loop-de-loop. And when you're hanging upside down, you'll fall off and you go right back to the beginning, but then you get back on and you do it again. It's never a straight line.
Yep.
So if you're listening, whether you've done 75 hard or not, give it a look into. Ben did it, he found it very, very beneficial. And I would say there's probably other plans out there that could also be just as beneficial, but it really depends on what you need in the moment that it's happening. And 75 Hard provides these guidelines and structure that can help you with your self-confidence, your self-esteem, getting that grit and discipline, how to work through a plan. Because I think it really is more about committing to yourself. Can you start on day one and go through 75 days? Whatever you decide for your nutrition and your fitness and stuff. Which leads me back to the quote that I started with. It's not luck, it's not magic, it's not circumstances. It's developing a great plan and executing on it day in and day out until the vision in your head becomes a reality. And right now, for 75 Hard, executing the plan is starting day one, following the guidelines, and making it a reality all the way to the finish line. So, kudos to everyone who has done it, whether it's 75 Hard or a different plan. Thank you, Ben, for coming on the show.
Well, look, thank you so much for having me.
And, look forward to next week where we're going to talk about what drives you. And what you can do to help this podcast out is subscribe, write a review. Yeah, thank you so much, and tune in next time. Have a good one. Bye.